Hey, welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. My mind's been going since last week in our conversation. And, I thought it would be kind of good to sort of take it in a different, down a different path
Yeah,
and expand on it a little bit, if that's okay with you.
absolutely. What are we talking about?
So last week we talked about how do you confront a liar, especially if that person is an integral part of your company. And we took that apart every which way
Yes, we
that you
did.
could imagine. And so I'm saying, as I'm doing more writing these days, I'm saying to myself, why are you thinking about your problems? So I wanted to throw it at you. Don't feed your problems with thoughts, starve them with action. The
Mm,
only way to deal with a problem is to get it dealt with. And when somebody's posing, like, I don't want to come across as critical to our listener who posed last week's question, because I'm not being critical. I'm being curious. And
sure.
I always say, why in the world would anyone give away so much of their personal energy and feeling of well-being, giving any airtime to somebody who's a liar?
Yeah.
And thinking about it, I'm sure every which way. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this gets out? What if I can't trust them? I mean, we think about our problems way more than how to address them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to pose that question to you. Why feed your problems with all this thinking and ruminating and staying up and tossing and turning all night? Act on them so they're no longer there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a slippery slope, right? Because sometimes, it depends on the level of thinking, I guess, you're giving to it, right? The amount of mental energy that you're putting towards it. I think, I know for a fact, and I've learned this from you, that try not to be reactionary because I am more into action than I am to thinking through the consequences of what I'm about to say or do. So it's a little bit of a slippery slope, but I also think that people get stuck in repeat, where they will spend so much mental energy, thinking or worrying about a particular problem or a situation or whatever, but they're not actually saying, okay, I've given that an ample consideration. I've dedicated the time. I've looked at the angle or looked at the situation from every angle, and these are the things that I come away with and understand. Now, what am I going to do about it? Right. Figuring out how to take that next step in terms of asking that question about what action really needs to be taken. In the situation that you just mentioned from last week's episode, the conversation has to take place, right? You have to have that conversation about the lie. You have to have progress on that so that that doesn't isn't allowed to continue and isn't allowed to fester. And I could see specifically this person or many people that are in that same situation just consuming so much mental energy over a situation that really does require you know careful consideration in how you proceed. But at the end of the day, that consideration to just tumble over and over and upset your apple cart in terms of your well being is not a good one. So you've got to eventually say, okay, fine, I've thought of it. I know what I need to do. I know I need how I need to do it. Now I need to take that next step. I think that's where people get stuck. I think we spend too much time focused on the trying to think through every possible angle, hoping somehow magically the situation just goes away, maybe, or the problem just gets remedied in some other capacity, and we don't realize that really we hold the key in our own hand, and that is the action, which is why you're proposing this is the topic today. So I find it interesting because I've been the opposite, where I've taken action too early and too quickly, and then kind of been like, I shouldn't have said that or I shouldn't have done that. So I've tried to take the pregnant pause, but that pause is just a pause. You still need to carry forward.
People address their problems also in multiple ways. So, using that last week's as an example, and I'm not putting words in this person's mouth. He might have dealt with it or not dealt with it in a much, different way. I'm using it as a basis point. And that is, okay, I have a problem. I'm dealing with a liar. I don't know how to trust this individual. So I'm going to confront him and say, I have enough. You have to stop lying about things. There's no way I could trust you. I saw you lie about this, this, and this. And as far as I'm concerned, you're lying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person says, I'm sorry. And gives a rationale as to why that happened. And they didn't mean to lie. It just came out that way, whatever it
Yep.
is. And the person says, okay, I hear you. And they go away. And then every minute of every day that's subsequent to that, they're wondering, am I trusting that
Yeah.
person? Can I trust that person? Is what they just told me true? Or are they lying again? How will I know? And this is going to go on and on and on because there's no tangible action
Yep.
to deal with it, to measure whether or not change has happened, and to know whether this person truthfully, excuse the pun, is addressing the situation that you brought to the table.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's all this thought and all this, every action, every conversation is filtered through the lens. Can I trust them? This is a problem. This is a problem. I don't know if it's been addressed or not. Does it remain a problem? And rather than take an action that is measurable, that is validatable, that you could both come to the table and maybe course correct if there needs to be more change, but actual action
Yeah.
and achievable action, because trust is not broken. It is
Right.
shattered into a million pieces. And once that trust is implicated, it takes a long, long time to rebuild. And if it's not consistent, and I mean every conversation, every word that comes out of your mouth, it'll be shattered forever all over again. And then there's no coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's action and there's action, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
No,
what is the action that you could take so you're not consistently thinking about it? Because that's going to wear you down.
it will. Well, and if we switch gears and take it away, that one is it's an important one to be addressed, and it needs to, you need to take the action. But what if it's just I don't know. Let's say I'm thinking about changing jobs, or I'm thinking about, applying for that promotion, and you're thinking about it, continually about what you need to do and what you need to do next. When you look at those situations, I think you treat them similar, maybe slightly different, but you have to get to the point, and you live in the questions. I mean, you're great at reminding us to live in those questions, but you finally get to a point where you've consumed so much mental energy about a particular topic or next action or whatever, or your at least your next step in the progress or whatever you're attempting to do. And you just have to ask yourself, have I looked at everything from, all the potential angles? Have I considered what the potential outcomes might be? Do I feel like I've, kind of thought this thing to death in every capacity? And is it now time for me to take that step forward and take that action, and whatever that is? Maybe that's submitting my resume. Maybe that's having a conversation with my boss. Maybe that's, going and having an exploratory interview with that company if I want to change career paths. Figuring out to the point where you say, okay, enough thinking. Now it's time to start the doing. All right. What's those next steps that need to actually take place?
Well, and there's many questions that happen before you get to that point.
Yep.
One is, what do I really want to see have happen here? And, a question that I've posed many times on various shows is, what I'm doing now something my future self will thank me for? In this instance, the answer is no.
Yep.
So what will my future self thank me for? And then you actually look at your boundaries, your sense of integrity, what your career path and everything is. Yesterday, I called my cousin's daughter, so a cousin of mine, who had a very interesting career path, because I wanted to know what was her thought process to take her on the career path she was on. Because she went into law, and nobody in our family, well, actually, Michael went into law, but not her kind of law,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be a lawyer. Like, he didn't go into law to be a lawyer. He went into law to be a policymaker. So nobody in the family or extended family went into law. That's not just something that any of us did. So
Yeah.
what was the impetus, right? And she hated every minute of it. But it was a means to an end.
Yeah.
And she went into entertainment law, and then actually becoming a producer. She's producing all kinds of film and TV shows and everything else now. And what was fascinating was the lack of integrity along the way, and what caused her to move away from some jobs because she didn't like being the traditional lawyer where somebody has to win, which means somebody's got to lose.
Yeah.
And that is a fundamental value system within us. If you're working in an organization where it's in any way, shape, or form acceptable to continue working with somebody who's a liar, that speaks to your value system.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the actions that you're going to take to maintain your integrity, to align yourself with work that allows you to do your brightest and best,
Yeah.
and be a person of integrity? And if the choice that you make is not a good choice, nothing stops you from making another choice and actually setting those boundaries and say, this is why I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Because I will not align myself with somebody who's an habitual liar. There's nothing in this world that's worth me compromising my values. So, what are the actions that you're going to take? I'm not saying to compromise making a living. I'm not saying if you've built a business from the ground up that you just let it go and walk away. You find a way to be able to transition out, be bought out, whatever it is, so that you start something that starts with integrity and maintains that integrity.
Yeah.
So, what is it? Rather than talk about, I'm going to do band-aid approaches to this problem or just address this one
Yeah.
situation rather than the root cause, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to still be thinking about that problem. So look at the actions that you could take, systematic actions that everyone gets you closer to that desired end result that you could be proud of.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, the only way you're going to get results is to take the action, right? Thinking it to
Bingo.
death won't get you any closer. So,
No, it'll give you a headache.
yeah, it'll give you a headache. It'll cause many sleepless nights. It'll cause you a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And I do think that there are a lot of people that struggle with, okay, what is that next step? How do I take that action? What do I, what is that thing that I need to actually do next. And, in the situation of our liar, right, that's a scary proposition, right? That action is a really tough one to take because there's a lot of potential consequences to it, but it's one you can't afford not to take, right? That's, the action has to take place.
What happens to this individual? Think about it for a moment. Just out of curiosity, if you're associating yourself with a liar and doing nothing about it, how long will it take before others start calling you the liar?
Mm,
Because you're actually condoning, covering it up, or not addressing it head on.
yeah.
And is that the label that you want to wear for the rest of your life? Or
Yeah.
as long as people pay attention to your approach to things? Ask yourself that question. That's a really good self-reflective reality check
Yeah.
in your face question.
That's a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I love the fact that we're tying this into the last episode. So for as a reminder to our audience members who maybe if you didn't see the last episode or listen to the last episode, please go back and check it because it'll have some relevance. And then I'm really curious about those that did listen to it that are now listening to this one, that what their thoughts are and their takeaways from this because I do think that this kind of permeates a lot of different aspects of our lives and our careers is, the avoidance of the action. Yeah, I know I'm guilty of it from time to time. So I'm curious what everybody else's perceptions of this is and the topic, from, what their takeaways are. So Donna, how might they reach out to us and let us know what their three, as you say, their 3 cents from this
Makes
episode
sense.
is?
The difference in the dollar between US and Canadians. It's no longer 2 cents.
Yeah.
Um, Join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper, and let us know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear from your perspective, how would you address these situations and what actions would you take if you were in this similar situation? Because I think it'd be beneficial for all our listeners. And obviously, podcasts, every platform known to man. I love when I get these suggestions from Audibles, for example. You should
Yeah.
check out this podcast with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. And going, I am that person. I know it. So it's really good that it's being disseminated in multiple platforms. You have a choice. and just join the community and join the conversation. We want to hear from you, and we're happy to bring your topics to the table as well.
Absolutely. Well, we are so grateful that you guys tune in to Inquiring Minds. However, you might be absorbing our episodes, Facebook, YouTube, or on the podcast platforms. We are super honored that you are here and listening. We hope that we continue to add value and the topics are helpful. Our goal with these are to create those conversation opportunities for yourselves, with your teams, around the dinner table, with your friends, wherever you might want to raise them, but we certainly appreciate it. And, as just an additional plug, if you know anybody that might benefit from these conversations, we would love for you to help us spread the word about this show, because we're getting some tremendous feedback. We know it can bring some real value, and it's a great door opener for conversation with you and your network. So we encourage you to share it wide and far if you don't mind. But Donna, until next time, thanks again for another great conversation, and I'll see you soon.
Have a good one.